Today it is time for me to really turn on, make sure I'm ready to use my convincing skills to convince everybody to read these manga. Hello friends, happy Wednesday. So very excited that you're here. So excited for another Top 5 Wednesday. And this week I'm saying it first because in last week's Top 5 Wednesday video, I got really gung-ho to talk about those second male leads that are my favorites. And I didn't mention to go check out Maeve's video. I had to put in text to go mention. Be sure to go check out her picks for today's prompt. I'll leave a link to her channel down below. I believe this prompt was actually by her, so I'm really excited. And oh my goodness, I think it's gonna be really good. In today's prompt, I almost got to say that, is top 5 manga we want more people to read. And I feel like there's a lot of manga that fit this prompt, honestly. And I had to really think of if I could only say 5, what are those 5 going to be? And I'm like, well, that's a little bit overwhelming because like I said, there's just so much out there that I would love to see more people hype up and read, just put it on their radar. So I'll go ahead and start with 2 digital titles that I really want more people to check out, especially because they are digital. And we all know that for most people, I feel like for the average reader, checking out things digital is a lot harder than it is checking out physical because, I mean, majority of us, we want a physical book, and I'm the same way, honestly. But for number one, I have talked about this every time there's a new chapter, well, honestly, since it got licensed in English, and that is Magical Girl Dandelion. I just talked about this in my manga news video. It's literally when we have a new chapter or when it was licensed, it was the first thing that I mentioned because I am just loving this series so much. It's on the Viz Media app. There's only 4 chapters. They're all free, and it has just been a really cool series. I mean, it's a Magical Girl series, which is awesome, and I don't read nearly enough of that, so I'm really loving how I feel like maybe what I feel Magical Girl manga is, in the sense it's bright and bubbly and sparkly, and the good guys always defeat the bad guys. Like, I feel like Magical Girl Dandelion is doing something different. There's not sparkles, and yes, our main female lead, I do feel like is a bubbly character, but she has a lot of heart, and her best friend is the bad guy. She wants to become a magical girl, but she's like, I'm not going to cut ties with my hero who is the bad guy. And I really love how it's just different in that there's bad guys in this world, yes, and our bad guy Shade helps fight them, but I feel like it poses something different of like, can a magical girl befriend a bad guy and look up to them? Because the other magical girls are like, no, get rid of him. He needs to go. He is the bad guy. But here is our female lead standing up for him and wanting him to be okay. And so I've really enjoyed it. While I'm not a horror fan person at all, there are horror elements, but they're not overwhelming. And it does really add this eerie vibe to it that I'm like, again, there's no sparklies and no bright bubbles everywhere. And I'm just like, this is a little bit creepy, but like in a way where I'm not turned away from reading, but want to keep reading more because I want to see what's going to happen next. I really feel like every chapter that's gone on really tests the motivations of our female lead and how much does she want to be a magical girl, because she's sort of like, that was her dream, but she's sort of like randomly chosen, it feels like, to become this magical girl, and she never expected it but had hope for it. And so she's having a really, especially in this latest chapter 4, she had to muster and dig deep to find that courage and that strength to keep going when at that moment it just seemed like has no energy. And it's like, what is she gonna do? And of course the bad guy is like saying all the bad guy thingies and egging her on and making her feel worse. And she just, again, she digs deep, spoiler free version of saying that, and finds that courage and that strength to fight. And so I have loved this. It's wild to me because I see so much fan art on X all the time for this series. I mean, every week I'm seeing new fan art shared by the creator, but it's like seeing people actually read it. I don't know that many people who are actively reading it and promoting it. And so I'm like, people need to read this, because I just feel like if you're like, magical girls, not for me because of the things I mentioned before, like the sparkly stuff and everything, then you may feel like, well, this is not a manga for me. I think you should give it a chance. I think you should give it a chance, especially since there's only 4 volumes. So the commitment to trying it is really low, and it's really good, and the chapters are very long. So I would highly recommend it, and I just think everybody should be reading this because I feel like it's definitely a good October kind of spooky kind of read, but it's just really good as a whole as well, and I'm eagerly looking forward to more chapters. For number 2, I am so excited to talk about this one. I have not talked about this manga in a hot minute. It's another digital manga, though it's not on the Viz app and it's not on K-Manga, or at least I don't think it is, but it's called My Darling Next Door. I do have a video review of this series. I read it, I believe it was 2 years ago, and typically I don't go and buy an entire digital series. I think I had like volume 1 that I got for free or 99 cents, but I loved it so much. I went and I bought the rest of the series at the time. It's 5 volumes. It is an age gap, but what I loved about this manga is I saw myself so strongly represent the female lead. I'm blanking on her name. I even forgot to look up her name, but I feel so bad. I do feel like her and I are very different. She's a gairu and she's so fun and has this bright, bubbly personality. She's an incredible female lead. I love following her, and she has a good head on her shoulders as well. But the thing is she starts falling for her neighbor because she is, I think, like we'll say like a junior in high school, and she has a new neighbor that moves in, and he's like a young businessman. We'll say like, I think they had like a 7-year age gap because it's the same as me and my husband's. She starts falling for him, and the way that this age gap is done was amazing because I really feel like the male lead, he knew about the age gap, and he talked to the dad like, hey, I'm starting to have feelings for your daughter, and he respected the dad's wishes of what he said. Like when the female lead and the male lead are alone, he remembered the dad's words and would just respect that, despite if the female lead is like, can we just snuggle? And he's like, no, we can't because it's going to lead to things. And so I really love their relationship, especially since she is like this sunny personality and he's just so very quiet. He doesn't say much. He doesn't have a lot of emotions. I mean, he has a lot of emotions, yes, but like when it comes to like visually, you don't see him make a lot of different expressions. And so I really love the dynamics of the relationship, but just to see the progression and just have this really well done age gap manga that I could very strongly relate to, it just made my day. And I was like, I don't know of anybody except for I think my friend Danielle, which I was really excited that she's read it. I think she's the only person I know of, because we've talked about, that has read this series. And I feel like maybe because it is digital manga and that definitely hinders a lot of people, but I feel like if you don't mind reading digital and you are looking for an age gap that doesn't have like a serious minor, because I mean, I think by the time they officially get together, she is 18, so they do wait till she's of age, but like when she's falling for him, I mean, she is like 17. It's just so respectful. Like there's nothing I hear a lot of people say that age gap is very icky, but I never felt that there was anything that was like uncomfortable, and just really loved how the parent was involved in just all of it. It was so good. I laughed a lot. It was one of those series I read once and then I went back and reread it from cover to cover, first volume to the final volume, because I just had such a good time. And I was like, man, I don't remember what triggered me thinking about it, but I was like, I need to go back and reread it because of how much I loved it. And it's just definitely a series I would love to see get more time and attention, and that people would give an honest chance, because it's just it's a sweet and fun series, and I really, really love it. For number 3, I'm really excited to feature this one, and that is Queen's Quality. Now, I will say I do feel like there is quite a few people who really do love this series, but I feel as a whole that it is pretty underrated, and I think that's just because it's one series, but volume 1 technically is QQ Sweeper, and it recently came back in stock earlier this year, but it was really short, and I think it's back out of stock now. In my opinion, you cannot start Queen's Quality without having read the first 3 volumes of QQ Sweeper, because it is one series. It's just the creator mentioned in one of the volumes that the publisher decided, like the Japanese publisher decided, like, hey, let's change the title, and so it seems like it's 2 different series, but it's not. It's just easier to say Queen's Quality because we all know what it is, or I feel like when people talk about it, they're like, oh, Queen's Quality, but you say QQ Sweeper, it's like, what's that? So I wanted to specifically mention Queen's Quality for that reason. But I just feel like, and it's not anybody's fault that they can't start Queen's Quality because QQ Sweeper Volume 1 is out of stock, but it makes me sad because I feel like a lot of people have, especially in the shoujo community, or love reading shoujo, or interested in reading it, I should say, that they're like, I want something that's action-packed with the romance not being the focus. And it's like, hello, Queen's Quality is it. I mean, I know we have like Yona of the Dawn and whatnot, but I really, really love Queen's Quality. I do have a review of this. Was it this year? No, it was last year. It last year it won my shoujo event that I do every year, of where you guys vote for the manga that you want me to read and review on my channel. We have like 3 different rounds. Really excited. Looking forward to that coming next year, honestly. But I loved it and I cried a whole bunch. And this is such a series that really addresses mental health in a really powerful way, that when I just think of series that have deeply impacted me, Queen's Quality hands down is one of them. Again, it has that addressing of mental health, taking care of your mental health, and then it has that high stakes of action, and the action is good. It is so good. Very detailed. It's not like, okay, we'll just have this 2-page battle and that's it. No, I mean, people are losing limbs kind of thing, at least especially in the later volumes. And we even have a little plant horror that's going on in the latest volumes. So there are so many elements. It's definitely a darker shoujo in my opinion. And there were times that I had to put the series down because I'm like, this is feeling really hopeless right now. And it's definitely getting dark. I mean, it goes like to the dark places sometimes in your mind where you don't want to address those, where you know you have, say, like a struggle or an issue with something. And this manga really encourages you to find the heart, the root of that issue. And it is very hard to go there just as an individual, but seeing Fumi, our female lead, having to go to those places and go to those doors to relate to the series was hard. It was not always easy. And again, there were times, like especially later on, I'm like, I can't keep reading because it feels so hopeless right now. But if there is dark, there is always light, there is always hope, and this series shines at showing the light, showing the hope. And so I really feel like if more people tried this series, I do feel like more people would really enjoy it, especially if you want an action-packed shoujo. Like, there are definitely some volumes that are definitely not slice of life, but definitely on the calmer side of things, but there's always something happening, and there's definitely mystery, and a lot of secrets are coming out, and it's like, whoo, like the creator is putting Fumi through the ringer right now, and I'm thankful that she has people around her like Yutaro who love and care for her and remind her of her value and her worth, because if she listens to these certain people, it would not be good. It would not be good, and I'm really excited that volume 20 comes out next month. Like, let's go. I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped. I need to brace my heart though. I need to brace my heart because I know it's going to be intense, and more often than not, I cry when I read these volumes, but it is, again, a very good series that I would highly recommend. For number 4, I remember when this series first came out, like the first volume, and it seemed like a lot of excitement, and then like there's been nothing, and that is The Villainess's Guide to Not Falling in Love. I do have a first impression on this channel thanks to you guys voting during that time. I love this. It was amazing. It was so much fun, and I have just been sad. Like, we have 2 volumes out right now. Volume 3 comes out next month, and I have been sad that I'm just not seeing anybody talk about it. I do feel like there is a little bit of a longer gap between volumes, but it's not so long where like it's forgettable, I feel like. And so I'm like, is that influencing it? But I really love this. I felt it brought something different to the villainous genre because there's so much action. Like, especially in this volume alone, the scene with the giant snake was incredibly good, very detailed, and the art alone is just absolutely stunning. It is gorgeous. I mean, you could just read this because the art is so beautiful. It's stunning. Sorry, I repeated myself, but it's just that good. What I really like too is our main girl here, Luciana, I think it's how you say her name. She is reincarnated into this world as the villainess, and I really love her personal journey where she's like, you know, I could treat this story or this world like a game that I know it's going to happen because I played it. Or I could see that these are real people with real struggles, real problems, and reach out to them as another human being, not just as an NPC or a potential love interest in this game. And I thought that was very satisfying to see that actual Otome game aspect addressed in how she is going to move forward as an individual in this series. There were just so many beautiful and satisfying elements to it that I feel like it's one of those, not going to say top-notch villainous because I've never like actually ranked what are my like ultimate favorite villainous manga, and I feel like that'd be really hard to do, but I do feel like when I think of something that really stood out, it's again that action and how Luciana is addressing things with being reincarnated. Also, the Black Lily, I love him. He is amazing. He's incredible. I gushed about him after I read volume 1. I gushed about him after I read volume 2, and I'm excited to see him in volume 3. Though we're getting some new characters. We haven't met the entire male cast. I don't think they're all love interests, but we haven't met all of them yet. But all of of them are very, very handsome characters. So if you do like seeing handsome characters, this is another win. But I'm just sad like that it just sort of fell off. And I honestly was one of those people that was like, I don't know about this because this guy here is her brother. We don't actually know. I don't think he is, but it hasn't been addressed yet. But she's supposed to be the sister. And so I do feel like, because I know it did for me, that I was like, no, I'm not reading that. Like, no, it's not my cup of tea. But the way it's handled, there's nothing romantic there. And so when I saw somebody that I follow on Instagram share a review, I was like, I need this. And I was like, Laura, why did you pass on this originally? Because it was just so good. Very much surprised me. I definitely have this in my top favorite books of this year that I've read. So that definitely speaks hopefully a lot in that of I might have been like, not for me, but now I'm like, yes, I made sure this was one of the manga that I definitely pre-ordered for this year because I need to know what's going to happen next. And I've really just been pleasantly surprised of how the series has continued to go on and have very high expectations for volume 3. And for number 5, I do have another villainous manga, and that is The Villainous Stands the Heroes. Now, it has been a hot minute since we have gotten volume 4. But I was like flipping through my reading journal and I saw this and I'm like, when's the last time I've seen anybody talk about this manga? And I loved it. It is a blast. I related so much to her because basically she's been reincarnated as a villainess in this game. And she's like, you know what? I'm literally going to do anything to support my favorites. I stan them, and if I have to play the role of the villainess, then so be it. I will do it and I don't care. And that's exactly how this series unfolds. I love it deeply. There was something in volume 3 because I've definitely related to her a lot in volumes 1 and 2, but there was a scene in volume 3 I'm like, girl, I can't relate to you in that. I can't relate to that. It wasn't like a deal breaker where I decided to drop it because I still really, really love the characters. And as I was rereading this morning, I was like seeing her struggle of this guy right here is one of her best boys or is her best boy. And she's really struggling because there's some romantic interest there. And she's like, he is in my past life, he was my best boy. And you don't touch the faves. You stand them, but you don't touch them. And he has expressed interest in her. So I do really love seeing that internal struggle for her of what is she going to do. And it definitely has made me interested in more volumes because I want to know what she's going to do. How is she going to handle this kind of problem? And I'm just like, girl, just cave. Just cave and give in to the romance to be with him. Because anyway, it'd be a long story and probably will go into spoilers, but I really love it all. And again, she's just a fun villainess that I was like, I could see myself if I was ever reincarnated in Otome game and I was reincarnated as a villainess. Yes, I would do whatever I need to keep things the same and just stand my favorites from afar and support them, even though I think I would do a terrible job. Like, there's definitely moments where she's playing the evil role, right? And then you'll see her like behind the fan where her real expression is showing. Like, here's a really good example where she's sort of got that evil look going, but this is how she really feels. And I'm like, yes, I would be the same way. So I think if you're looking for maybe what could be a very relatable villainess who's doing everything she can, this would be a really fun manga to check out. And hopefully with volume 4 eventually releasing, that it will go on people's radars again, because I want more people to talk about this with me because it was just so fun. And again, I don't know, I'm sure I know people who've read it, but I can't think of anybody like recently who's featured it. Maybe I'm like, I need to be one that features it just to remind people like, hey, this manga exists and it's a really good time. And I definitely think more people should check it out. And honestly, I feel like for all my picks today, I would love to see more people read these. And I hope that I did them justice of why I feel like other people should read them. They're all so fun and very touching and impactful and love them deeply. But I would love to hear from you, friends. What are some manga that you would love to see other people read more? Let me know down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!